The northern part of the country has become almost like a killing field, at least in the last 2 decades. Just as it recovers from the devastation of the Boko Haram insurgency, which led to the killing of thousands of people and displacement of millions in the contiguous states of Borno, Adamawa and Yobe, also known as the Bay States. Fleeing from the military onslaught due to intensified bombardments of their hitherto held enclave, the Sambisa Forest.
Ya Kufara Nigeria.
Boko Haram elements and their collaborators from other terrorist groups like ISWAP and Ansaru joined forces with bandits and kidnappers who have been terrorizing the northwest to make life difficult, especially for the vulnerable communities in Zamfara, Katsina, Kaduna, Niger and Sokoto states. Affecting many families in northwest Nigeria, banditry has become a nightmare for thousands of communities across the region. This has caused many to lose hope in the 2023 general elections as the perpetual fear of attacks grips the hearts of many. Sawayawa in Kurufi local government area of Katsina state has faced many attacks from bandits, and these people have virtually no hope of participating in the general elections and feel forgotten over this issue, which has remained almost unchallenged.
A nan yammacin Kurfi garinmu na ɗaya daga cikin garin da 'yan ta'adda suka hana zama lafiya. Suka ɗallafa da daddare yanzu sai da rana, yanzu da rana ke bamu da sukuni kuma. Suna hana mu zama lafiya da rana ko jiya. Sun zo nan rana ta jiya muna cikin masallaci mun yi raka a ɗaya suka wuce. Mun sa ran mu in bai samu ba za mu samu damuwa, amma in Allah ya ce ai in ko bai yiwuwa ana ba da tabbacin dai kila ko waɗannan za a kai akwatin nan tama nan dai kan da ƙyar zai yiwu in dai ba jami'an tsaro gare mu ba sama da yadda ba mu tsammani. Amma in muna da jami'an tsaro sama da yadda ba mu tsammanin za su zo mai yiwuwa ne ko ya yi.
For these communities, bandits struck on daytime, and so fear of being attacked on election keep many more terrified with the poll.
Zaɓe, Allah a yi nan a yi inda matakan tsaro. Wancan ya buge magana inda matakan tsaro ake zaɓe. In ko babu, to ba hawa mai tsayawa nan ya yi zaɓe. Na ce ma in zaɓe za a yi sai da matakan tsaro. In za a yi zaɓe sai da matakan tsaro. In ko ba matakan tsaro ba yiwuwa saboda da rana suke zuwa ba dare wa yanzu.
In ba da gaske aka yi musu ba domin Allah zaɓen nan yana iya ƙin yiwuwa. Ƙila in kamar in gwamnati ta so a yi, ƙila tana iya taimakawa sai a zo a yi zaɓen nan hankali kwance. Amma in ba haka ba sai dai a zo a yi shi ko tsaye ko wani haka da yadda ba a tunani.
Intensified kidnapping by the terrorist groups led to the abduction of both villagers, travelers and students for ransom in millions of naira.
Na da matsala yanzu duk wani wallahi yawancin mu wani da katin kare shi abinda zai fara lissafa ma abinda za a ci gidan shi. Wallahi bai ma tunanin cewa an san neman yanci gaskiya ne ka amshi yancin ka matsayinka na indijan ɗan ƙasa kana da right ɗin da zaka je kai zaɓe ko ka zaɓi abin da kake so. To babu zaman lafiya. Yanzu kaman ƙauyuka nan wanda suka shahi ƙauyen ɗan amarya nan wajen Geza, Sauyawa, Kaɗage duk ga su nan da dai yawa waɗanda suke bin nan garin ne jagoransu. Wallahi in wani ya zo wani bai zuwa. Ko cewa aka yi za a tare nan a yi zaɓe wani ba zai zo. Tunanin shi ba a hanyar nan yau rana ce mai tara mutanen nan suna alfahari da ranar da za a tare da mashina, wayoyi, masu kuɗi haka wanda suke tunanin in sun ɗauke shi za su samu kuɗi a hannunsa. To ranar hitowa kowa ce misali na zaɓe sai kana tunanin in ka hito kan hanya ko a ɗauke ka ko ɗanka wallahi ba ka zuwa.
The armed conflict has left thousands killed and millions of farming communities displaced. The situation has aggravated the protracted farmer-herder conflict, which has been ravaging especially the north-central part of the country, with Benue, Nasarawa and Plateau states as the most affected. While there was substantial reduction in the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast and perhaps recently the rampaging banditry in the northwest, pocket of attacks by the armed groups is still persisting, with innocent people being killed almost on a daily basis. The protracted farmer-herder conflict has also fueled the ethno-religious crisis that has been rocking the southern part of Kaduna.
An destabilize mutane sun wace suka bar communities nasu, kaman sakon community yanzu sai dai mu je ne mun zauna dan yan mitoci ne kaɗan sai dai mu wace mun tafi inda za mu je mu nema inda za mu kwana, ba zama a community. Sanan dube yanda aka koko ne community gaba ɗaya, ba abin da yake a wurin da mutum zai iya zauna har ya survive rayuwar shi. Duka gidajenmu an kone, dube wayannan irin wannan gidan haka yanda ka gan shi haka bango sun an kone, bango sun rushe duka gaba daya. So ba mu da inda za mu iya zama, balantane har a ce mu samu sukuni mu natsu har mu yi zabe. Voters card namu ma wayanda suna a shirye an kone su, a yanzu na haka ba mu san ya za mu yi mu samu voters card ga zabubukan da suka zo ba.
On August 18, 2022, terrorists were said to have launched an attack on a community which they repeatedly attacked on September 26, 2022, allegedly killing 47 residents of the area.
Muna zamani muka gan Fulani sun zo sun shiga mana ba dalili ba komai, sai harbi suka sun kashe mun kanina. Da sun kashe mun kanina ba su bari ba, mun doga kamar abun ya wuce. Muna zama on Sunday in the night, 10 o'clock suka shiga mana wurin nan ne, suka yi mana kaca-kaca, suka kashe mana yan waye ba kadan ba.
This town, for instance, is now a ghost of itself as a result of the tragic reality of attacks by armed groups. A priest, Reverend Father Michael Cosmas, recalls one of such attacks that caused many residents to flee their homes.
Those two attacks, we lost 43 persons. The people were completely displaced. All their houses burnt down. That place became a grazing ground for the Fulani herders. And then last year, an attack also took place in Agban, Kagoro. In that attack, we lost about 40 persons. Then the recent one that took place on 13 and 18 December this year, we lost 40 lives. In all these places, many properties were burned down.
Dorothy Jeremiah's home was also attacked.
Buga 11 don ina rike waya, to waya dai yana da alert duk time in yayi kawai sai ba da alert, sai na ji wayan ya ba da alert, sai na bi na switchin waya din, na duba na ga 11 ina switchin waya din sai sun ba da alert su mama, sai amoka da ya ba da sound dum 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 da yayi haka kawai sai ko ina ya amsa, ba ka ji inda da ka ya ka sa kunni ka ce ko ka gudu ga inda ka bi ba, ko ina ya amsa da bindigogi. Shiga duhu ina doka yaro na fita nan, kamin kai nan kofan gaban gidanmu sun bude sun shiga, sai mun wurga da gudu mun je mun fadi a can mun kara mun tashi, da mun tashi suka shiga gida din. Mai shago na can shine da daki wannan shi ma yana kokari yanda zai fita, yana leke yana ganin su wanda sun shiga cikin gidan, wai sai sun ce wai gudun, wai sun gudu, sai shi yana siya daki wurin ne suka harba mashinan nan, wai su ne suka fara sa wutan.
A 60-year-old Hawa Zakari fled her home to escape an attack, now seeking refuge in Kuta, a local community in Niger State's Shiroro local government area. She says she has no intention to participate in the next election. What is paramount to her is how to survive frequent attacks on her community by marauding bandits.
An fara dai abin kaman ba za a abin ba zai yi ƙarfi ba zai yi ƙarfi ba, muna nan muna dai cikin boyon da har yau ta gagara. Yau muna nan a garin Kutan nan muna sama da shekara 5 ne a nan wurin. Aƙalla wani lokaci za mu je mu zauna a daji ne ko abin da zai dan lawa, wannan in ya je gida ya je maganan noma a nan za a ɗauke shi, wannan kuma in ya je kamar zai ɗauko wani abinci ne a gida ko a kashe ko a ɗauka. A haka muke fama yanzu. Al'ummarmu suna nan a bakin rahi a mamake, ga iska ga sanyi, mace za ta haihu a wurin. A haka muke fama da su. Wanda ya kokari ya je gida ko taburma ko wani abu zai je ya dauko, an yi aran gama da shi, an wuce da shi, an bar mu da jidali, ba noman ba wurin kwanciya. A haka muke fama a cikin wahala har a rana ita kamar yau.
To gaskiya an cuce mu, ba za mu ji daɗi ba. Gaskiya yadda muka saba muna annashuwa muna yin zaɓen mu. Ita ƙaramar hukumar Rafi ta san cewa ba zan manta ba 2000 da biyun nan da aka yi zaɓe da ɗaya da aka yi zaɓe. Kusan ce ƙaramar hukumar Rafi ita ta zo ɗaya na ɗayan, Madaka kuma ita zo na ɗaya a zaɓe da muka yi. Duk zaɓen da ake yi muna bin gwamnati ko muna zaɓen mu lafiya lau, mu tashi lafiya lau. Amma wannan karan muna tunanin inda za mu yi zaɓen nan.
The situation is the same with a survivor of a farmer-herder conflict in Benue State. He says many members of his community now live outside the state in fear of attack.
So, young Layone, he shimba gwale kuhava, kuadanda hanga kete wasuba ilamba gunembra. So hanga ketu to be hack to Bangwajila. Sura ma bama kadute blato. Na young some by Simba Yala Henteria. Kahin here and by Wasu will honey youth. Will honey youth. Na one game back Masu Kuro, but the same youth. Shall go so over yen. Have a ya kwa hura one of one but my hayaga so that a huano. But Pishumba me come honey a younger show younger kwane he lay younger Nza Kwemango, Nzo Amiga, Mungo home by and bang bano baba me hahinya capacity Tomjera. So then I mumto, Mum Yemilin, Yam the Shin, and the Shin checker is Amiga. Emon Yam Bajumbaka from where I'm out Bajumara, Mopap, Bamcraft, Zagazana, Namoyo Yam Muemiga.
A sight of a deserted community with abandoned homes as we traveled through most of these villages is a commonplace. we came across a 107-year-old man in a deserted town. He said he is one last surviving member in this community. Dr. Tekembe Joseph Adoke is a lecturer with the Benue State University. He is worried that despite the humanitarian crisis generated by the armed conflict, authorities concerned are yet to take necessary steps to address the challenge.
People who have been affected, many of them have felt the irresponsibility of government already. So even compelling them or encouraging them to go and vote is a difficult task, and they cannot access their ancestral homes. It means that they have been psychologically, disturbed, people who are emotionally unstable already. So, in fact, the effect of such displacement is so much on them that thinking about election is not even something that is so important to them already. So, what my feeling is that these people have seen the irresponsibility of government.
There is approximately 1.5 million people displaced in the 7 local government areas affected in Benue State.
This is a very complex issue because if you can look at it, there are people who are not internally displaced, yet they are not willing to vote. So what about them? People who are not internally displaced are not ready to vote because of the feeling, the impressions they have about the activities of government. So it also applies to those who are even affected by the incidences of insecurity. So it continues to, people continue to lose interest, lose trust in the government of the day. The institutions that make democracy work are not working, are not doing what they are supposed to do. People are not sure. Up till now, you heard that there is PVC distribution. People who got registered, many of them complaining that they cannot find their PVCs. So what is happening? Is it their own faults? So this is, these issues are very complex. They are very complex, but it boils down to the insincerity of government. So there is already that side, in quote, of cheating on the people already. That's why we begin to feel that the forthcoming polls may be rigged.
The horrific tales of terrorist attack and the killings have caused many to lose hope in the conduct of the next election, despite repeated assurances by the authorities. For the people in the northeast of Nigeria, the relative calm that has returned to the area has given hope that they could participate in the 2023 elections.
When there was the insurgency was in a heat, it was in a top gear, it was so severe. Elections were conducted by restationing the polling stations where they can be accessed. For instance, in the IDP camps, election were done. There was voting in the election in the various camps. There was voting. What of now that people are being resettled? People are now being resettled in their ancestral homes. It will not be difficult for them to go and cast their votes where they used to be casting their votes over the years.
Samu sauki kuma sai dai mu ce Allah ya kara mana sauki. Yawwa saboda yanzu ai duk local government yanzu koda a ce wanda Boko Haram na shiga ba zai ce ba al'umma ba, akwai mutane ko da ba sa ciki ma da yawa, gaskiya akwai mutane ko ba haka ba, sai dai mu fata mu roƙi Allah ya kuma ya ƙara mana sauƙi.
The state governor Babagana Zulum re-echoes such optimism.
There is very greatest improvement in terms of security in Borno State. Borno State, we are doing very well now. Our rehabilitation and resettlement is also going very well. We are looking forward to see how we can rehabilitate Maiduguri Gamborungala Road and then Maiduguri Banki Road with a view to opening up opportunities for the people to earn their means of livelihood. Even in the developed world, we still have some pockets of insecurity, but by and large, we have succeeded a lot. Over 90% of our security situation has been improved.
Although there are conflicts and insecurity throughout Nigeria, the hope of a credible and free election is not lost.
We are going to deploy massively to take care of all the polling units in Nigeria. You know, we need a large number of police operatives and security agencies. Every polling unit in Nigeria must have at least a policeman. Quasi security units or state-owned security outfits will not be allowed to take part in election security management. We always say this, except those who are members of ICES, Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. We think we are ready and we're going to be professional this time around. We're going to be apolitical. We are not biased in any way. So we are going to midwife adequately in the electoral process to see that we have good and credible elections in Nigeria.
However, there are growing concerns on the possibility of deploying corps members to conduct the election, as pockets of attack still persist in some parts of the northern region, considered as ungoverned spaces due to absence of governance in the area.
When you talk about southeast and you are going to even northeast and northwest, right? You know, beyond the people turning out to vote, the major issue is, will INEC be deploying their staff to those areas? I mean, these are coppers, and I do not think that any Nigerian should lose his life because of an election. So as we head to the 2023 election, the question is, will INEC be deploying their ad hoc staff, their coppers and their core staff to these areas where there is insecurity, where there is banditry, top one of the people coming out to vote? Now, if you go to the northeast and northwest, where you have banditry, where you have Boko Haram, you know, it's funny that in 2019 and 2015, in places where there were major banditry attacks and insecurity, where people were literally living in IDP camps and living inside forests, people were no longer having a normal life, the votes that were returned from those places also represented a region that is very stable, a region that everything is normal. And that's the difference with this election. This election, for once, is going to reflect the actual voter turnout of Nigerian elections. We've had elections in the past where we see 29% voter turnout, 32% voter turnout, but most of those numbers are not real. Because on election day, what they do at the end of the election, the party in that area more like buys up the INEC ad hoc staff, buys up the party agents, and at the end of the election, they will use the incidence form to fill up every name of every person who didn't turn up to vote from the voter register, and one person will just simply turn print. And at the end of the day, they come up with this voter turnout. So for once in this election, we are going to see the actual voter turnout of people, especially in these regions where we have insecurity and these challenges.
Even with the current 96.3 million registered voters in Nigeria, a record high since the country's return to democracy in 1999, concerns remain on whether the increase in the registered voters and the enthusiasm around the election will impact on the outcome of the polls, especially if the authorities concerned failed to tackle the insecurity problem undermining the region.